Coming to you from UBN Studios in Burbank, California, you are listening to the Unsugarcoated Podcast with your host, Aalia and Aanchal.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unsugarcoated with Aalia. I'm Aalia and Aanchal, your host, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. I promise I am. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's all taking a toll. Job losses, economic uncertainty, social isolation, homeschooling, and canceled vacations, in addition to the fear of an unseen and deadly virus that attacks the air via the air we breathe, or the perspective that this is all a hoax. Regardless, many of us are stressed, really stressed. And as a trickle-down effect of what we're experiencing in the world right now, for many people, mental health is being challenged. And mental health being is basically the topic of our discussion today. And I've brought someone to the conversation that I really cannot wait to share with you. I met her 2 years ago in Toronto, California. We had originally connected on Instagram, and I just found her story inspirational. But it wasn't until I actually met her and really learned her story that I was even more impressed. And that's why I know she's actually the perfect person to have on this conversation today. And let's get going with that. And I think that once we're done, you're going to be a big admirer of her and a supporter of her as well. So with that, Aanchal Vashistha is a best-selling author of success strategies, two-time award-winning thought leader, international speaker, and a social entrepreneur. Her career started in technology, working and helping organizations with digital branding and communication strategies. It was the tragic passing of her twin brother, Tushar, to an undetected mental illness that prompted Aanchal to found Reach Out Together, a Canadian not-for-profit organization helping people improve their mental health via support groups, interactive programs, and events. Now she shares her journey to recovery from intergenerational trauma and the loss of her brothers, and advocates for mental health awareness and success. In the last 3 years, she has organized and spoken at over 40 events in 8 cities across 4 countries, with a total reach of over 40,000 people. She has appeared on several media channels, including ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox News, as well as Hollywood Live TV show, interviewed by the legendary Jack Canfield, with whom she co-authored Success Strategies. And today she leads Mindset Success Transformational Training for workplaces, schools, and other communities. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Aanchal Vashistha.
Thank you so much, Aalia, for having me here today.
Hello.
And honored to be on your podcast. Thank you for thinking of me.
Well, thank you for joining me. First of all, you're amazing. You're a young woman. Thanks. You're talking to us from Toronto today. How is the weather up there, by the way?
It's so beautiful today. It's absolutely fantastic. The sun's out. A lot of people are not out, but that's good. It works for us. But yeah, you can enjoy the sun from your balcony. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I will say I definitely have fallen in love with my backyard a lot more lately and taken advantage of it. It's kind of crazy. We're definitely having some nice weather here too. So I want people, I obviously read always these introductions that really highlight the successes and all the things that I want people to pay attention to. But you're so much more than just this intro I read. Your story is very deep and it's very powerful for a young woman in her mid-20s who immigrated to Toronto several years back. And I'd love for you, if you would, share your story and what's brought you to what you do today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aalia. I must say, Aalia is an incredible person. She really reaches out and tries to get the best out of people and, inspire them. So thank you, Aalia. Every single time, you ask me to share my story, it inspires me a bit more to continue to do so. I was born in India. I was raised in Nigeria, and I was shaped in Canada. Growing up, I grew up around 2 brothers. My father comes from a village in India, in the north of India, Uttar Pradesh. And at a very young age, he realized that's not the life that he wants for his family to come. And at a very young age, he left and he faced a lot of hardships, and created a very successful life for himself today. And as a young girl, I witnessed that progress. I witnessed his struggles. I witnessed how my family together really persevered through any obstacle that came their way, And I was raised in Nigeria. When I was really young, we moved there about 2 years old. And when I was 7 years old, my mom got cancer. And for those of you who don't know, in Nigeria, the medical services back then were not very good. So we eventually moved to Delhi, India, for about a year and a half, where my mom got treated, and she's fully recovered now. But I did notice, like, you know, how the community was so supportive and asking her, are you okay? Like checking in on her. And we'll get to that in a bit. But then we moved back to Nigeria eventually, and unfortunately, my older brother passed away from malaria. You know, he got bitten by one mosquito and his organs started failing. And within less than a week, he didn't make it. And Tushar, my twin brother, and I, we were, 13 years old at that time. And I think that was an awakening point for me personally. You know, that was the first child my parents ever lost. And I witnessed the impact of that. Something as simple as eating dinner on a table. We stopped doing that as a family. Right. Tushar and I, we were just 13 years old. We were teenagers. There was so much more we were to learn. But our parents are very loving, very supportive. They always try to provide for their family, right? Mm-hmm. So eventually my older brother was about to come to Canada, to Toronto, to study at University of Toronto. That was around the time that he was about to move and graduate high school, but he wasn't able to come. So what happened was I sort of took it upon myself, and I used to do these like visualization exercises where I would literally write down I want to get, for example, average 90% in like grade 12, for example, and I'd stick it on a wall to see it every day. Right. Because my older brother was a genius. He was the gem of the family. I don't know how the guy did it, but he always ended up acing everything he participated in. And I think I really looked up to him, and eventually time came and I fought to come to Canada. I dragged my twin brother with me here. I applied for all his paperwork, got his recommendations. I'm like, you're coming to Canada. We should, our older brother wanted to move here, Prashant Bhai, but he couldn't. So let's make it happen, right? And we eventually moved here. We got into University of Toronto, the both of us, and we graduated, got jobs in our respective fields. And unfortunately, shortly after, my twin brother took his life. We purchased a condo together a couple of years after we graduated, and he passed away in that unit. At that time, I had moved out, and he was in Mississauga, and I eventually moved out and moved downtown because that's where my job was. And, one thing I can say was ever since then, it's not been about what happened to, what happened. I think I've stopped asking that question. It's more about what I want to create with what has happened. I've realized that I got mental health first aid certified after 6 months of his passing because I had a feeling that I was lacking information, education about this subject, mental health. Right. What is mental health? What is mental health versus mental illness? Right. And while I was sitting in class during my mental health first aid certification, it just became evident to me that my twin brother was not well. Right. And I think he lacked a community, an environment that understood, could see, to acknowledge and to guide him as to where to go to get help. You are not alone in this. We did go through a really rough upbringing, and it's normal for children as they grow older in their 20s to realize or to feel certain impact of the trauma that they witnessed. Quite often it's intergenerational trauma that people witness if their parents have had a rough upbringing and their parents. Right. And I think that's what I advocate for today, intergenerational trauma and recreating a better life, regardless of what has happened to you.
No, absolutely. And you do that. You do it so well. You and I have had the opportunity to become friends as well as support each other. And we both are passionate about helping specifically survivors of trauma. You've taught me things that I did not, really understand. Though I'm familiar with loss, you taught me things specifically to the loss with regards to someone taking their own life. And there's a couple things that I want to mention on that because there's so much we can talk about that. So I think number one, you said, what is mental health? And I want to make this distinction because one thing I really hone in on is mental health building, because for some reason, when you say mental health to people, they go, well, I'm not depressed. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need a therapist. And by the way, I don't know, culturally, we're still dealing with this problem and mindset of you don't really need therapy, right? Or what does, therapy is not going to help you, which is like, it's interesting how our society is so resistant to things that actually help us. For example, seatbelts. When seatbelts were first introduced, people were cutting them out, and resistance, kind of like what we're seeing today. I'm not going to be told what to do. And it's like, it's to save your life, right? And yet our cultures can be so resistant to those for some reason. And I feel like the mental health concept is one of those arenas, right? So mental health building to me, and I'm going to ask what it means to you. I know for me, it's no differently than eating or going to church or going to the gym. It's creating a stronger mindset, training for that day when, I'm sorry, but shit's going to hit the fan, and shit is going to hit the fan in life. Like there's no way of sugarcoating that, ladies and gentlemen. That is everything about what Unsugarcoated Media is trying to tell you. I tell my kids, do not believe the Disney movie. Life is going to throw curveballs at you. We are all experiencing it now. And, to me, what we do really represents that gym work for people of lifting their cerebral potential and leveling up within their mindset. What is mental health building to you?
I think you absolutely said it right. Mental health, before we address that, I think it's important to understand the distinction between both. Mental health is something we all have, just like we have health, right? Mental illness, however, is something that completely disrupts the state of your mental being. So if you're not feeling connected, you're feeling like you're isolating yourself, your behavior yourself is not right, all these questions, chances are you're suffering from a mental illness. And I think quite often people misunderstand what poor mental health versus mental illness is, right? So what I would like to do really quickly here is show you a graph. And for the people that cannot watch what I'm showing, I'm going to verbally explain it. Now imagine there's a graph with X axis and Y axis, right? And there's a center point. Now that center point is you feeling okay. When you wake up, you are okay, right? And that's this center point. Now, let's say you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling good. You're feeling demotivated, restless. Chances are you have poor mental health.
Right.
And then you're on the negative side.
Yes. You don't need coffee and you didn't hit the wall. You actually have a little something.
But now let's say you wake up in the morning and you're positive. You're excited to get through your day. You already planned everything and you want to get through it, make the most of it. You experience feelings like happiness, joy, gratitude, and giving it, passing it on and things like that. You're on the positive side of mental well-being, right? Now, if you want to talk about creating that, how do you move forward? And that's what I would think this question is.
Yes.
Is let's say now you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling very positive, right? You're feeling demotivated. You're so no energy.
Oh, yeah. Corona got you down.
But somehow you push through and you're like, no, I'm going to have that. I'm going to make myself that coffee. And you do. So from here, you suddenly go here a little further towards the positive side. And now you're here and you had your first coffee. You're feeling a little better. You're like, maybe I'll make myself breakfast. I'm starting to feel good, right? And you make yourself your breakfast or you go get breakfast. And now you're feeling a little better and more towards the positive side. Again, you voluntarily go like, I'm going to meditate and then exercise. And now you're starting to feel better. And another thing, you feel better. And that is what the power of routine does.
Right.
Regardless of how you're feeling, it'll eventually make sure that you leave feeling positive.
Wow. I love the way you describe that. And that really makes so much sense. And I think that one of the things that we always talk about, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not have the day where you wake up and you're like, I'm ready, I'm on top of the world type of thing. And I think that I remember one time I had a friend who was a psychologist, actually, and I asked her post my cancer kind of, I was in it, this was several years ago, and I had been through my issues, and anytime I saw something like super emotional, like the right cotton commercial would make me cry. Okay. I was just the ball of tears. And I kind of felt like Jack Nicholson in the movie, Something's Gotta Give, because I went to my friend basically like, am I just different now because I've had this life experience and I'm so much more sympathetic and empathetic and all this stuff. And she's like, she looked at me and she's like, no, you're depressed. And I was like, what? I'm not depressed. I'm so happy I'm alive. And she's like, yeah, but there's something you're not dealing with. You're pushing it down. And in those moments, it's coming out of you. And I think that the reason why I bring that up is because part of this conversation is also like how I see people treating each other these days, Aanchal. And I feel that part of our mental health building is also so that when we have those moments, we don't snap, because you can either cry or you can get angry, right? Like, let's talk about how we exhibit emotions the healthy way and not healthy ways when we are having one of those difficult times.
Absolutely. And this is a brilliant question. Thank you so much, Aalia. So the reason why I have all of these notes prepared, guys, is because I actually just had another webinar right before this. So it comes in very handy.
I love it.
So for those of you that can take a look, it says event plus response equals outcome. This is an equation on how to maintain the right mindset through any adversity you go through. Event plus response equals outcome. You can read more about this in my mentor's book, The Success Principles. I read this, a month before my twin brother passed away. And I think this is the reason why I was able to face the situation hand on when it approached.
Right. So
let's say right now, I say, Aalia, you have green hair. You're not going to care about me saying that, Aalia, you have green hair.
Right.
Because you know for a fact that you don't have green hair, right?
Right.
But now let's say that I say, Aalia, you have been one of the naughtiest people I have ever had in one of my workshops. You would be like, is that, like, if you remotely have a little, confliction about that, little judgment internally about yourself, you would sit and you would second guess it.
Right.
Right. So it goes back to that demonstration, like, Aalia, you have green hair, but you don't care that Aanchal is saying I have green hair because you know it's certainty. It's not true.
Right.
Right. It works very similarly. And that's where this equation comes into play. Like, living your life as if you are in control. What does that mean? It means taking 100% responsibility for your life, for the results you produce and the emotions you feel. I think this is extremely crucial to understand. Not saying that it was your fault. It was not your fault.
Right.
The passing of my twin mother was not my fault. But I took 100% responsibility in that moment when the police was at my door telling me. And then I had to choose my response. Either I could have broken down right away and I wouldn't have known where to get started in this whole process because I didn't have any family here. My parents were still in Nigeria and I still had to call them on FaceTime to tell them and tell them to book a flight for the funeral. And I was able to do that just because I took 100% responsibility in that moment.
Right.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Yes, and I think that's the power of taking responsibility. Let's talk about something even lighter. It's like, you're traveling for work and suddenly the aircraft canceled the flight and you're at the airport, and now you don't have a hotel to stay in. The event is the flight got canceled, right? The response is up to you. And based on that response is going to be your present moment. Your present moment could be you're angry now because you chose to right away respond in an aggressive fashion. And now you're feeling discomfort. You're feeling emotions like anger. Or what you could do is acknowledge that something bad happened to you, right? Talk to yourself if you like, but find a solution that can improve your present moment. Your present moment could be you sitting in your Uber on your way to a hotel, right? Yes. Where now you have some more time to either meet some friends or network or whatever that may be. Enjoy your time out and enjoy your time, go in the sun and go for a walk, right?
Yeah. I will say being a silver lining type of person is definitely one of the traits of a resilient personality. Like hands down. I mean, I say that like when people ask me when I have gone through some of the things I've gone through and how did I will say one of the things I look back now and say, well, I kind of always had this perspective of it could be worse. You know, sure, I could be, what I'm experiencing right now stinks. It sucks. I'm frustrated. I want to get home. It's funny that you mentioned the airplane. I know I remember one time, you know, and feeling, but you know, it's also interesting though, because yes, it's happening to us, but then it's also happening to people around us. And I feel that, you know, there's this lack of cognizance and respect for people right now that genuinely hurts my soul. You know, because a lot of times I believe that these are good people or people who are not necessarily bad. And in that moment, they're behaving so badly. And okay, I'm actually going to bring this one up because it's a current topic. And I like what happened in the park with the woman who had the same last name, as a matter of fact, as the gentleman that was watching a bird, and he asked her to put the down here in New York. It occurred. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a woman was in Central Park. She was in an area that she knows you have to have your dog on a leash. A gentleman was like, "Hey, can you put your dog on the leash?" And I guess she wouldn't do it. He started recording, and she, on the recording, calls the police, going into dramatic hysterics, saying that there's a man threatening her life, a black man threatening her life. And so my point is, what she did was really messed up. It was manipulative. She knew what she was doing. I'm not going to let her slide on that. But it's very sad because what if she is actually a really good person, but she just had such a lapse of judgment in that moment, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I can't help but think of things like that when you say what you say. It's so true. And I think that's such an incredible, valuable, information for our audience and anyone listening, by the way. Take notes. Because I do want to jump back onto something you mentioned, your mentor, Jack Canfield. So a lot of people don't realize he is the author of The Chicken Soup for the Soul. He is a big deal. He's one of Oprah's besties and an incredibly, inspirational man. People do know him within the personal growth development world, and you've now co-authored a book with him. You've been part of his training, and you are now going out into the world and helping build communities and isolation and really make changes for people within their lives by the training that you give. Talk to me about what it's like to work with your mentor, saying you read his book and you know of him before, and then now you're working with him. And this is all in a matter of 3 years after you lost your brother. Some people take a decade to recover from something so painful. You really turned around and took that pain and made some incredible use of it, Aanchal. I just have to say that.
Thank you so much, Aalia. I really appreciate you acknowledging that. And to begin with, I really do have to say that I'm still healing. You know, the one thing that I can say with certainty is right away after this, I made joy a priority in my life. I feel like I've been fighting for joy. Anything that doesn't make me feel good, it instantly is a no. I don't want to do it. I don't want to engage in it. It's not contributing to my well-being. Right away, no. You know, I rejected being around environments that were not encouraging me. I think because we grew up with limited beliefs, you know, we know what people teach us. Things like you have to be very close to this person. You have to keep people around, make the most of it, try to fix things. You know, as women, we fix things all the time, right? But I also believe that it's okay to let things go, let people go that actually do not add any value. And in fact, are really bringing you down, you know? I think actively, it's one thing I've been doing. I've been just rejecting rejection and fighting and moving forward towards joy and well-being. In this journey, I have learned a lot, and whatever I learn is what I put into my trainings. And working with Jack Canfield and really seeing this whole thing come through has been such a blessing. I'd like to touch base on this Jack Canfield subject a little bit more. For those of you who don't know, my older brother, Prashant, he was a big lover of all of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. Like, I actually had a huge library growing up. Oh, wow. And I was not much of a reader, but my older brother was. And I grew up seeing his name on my bookshelf, you know, and a month before my twin brother passed away, I was getting on a cruise ship, and a friend of mine gifted me a book by Jack Canfield. And I saw that name and it just brought a huge smile to my face. And I'm like, you know what? This is the perfect book to read on this cruise tour. And I took it with me, and I think that book just changed my life. I came back to Toronto, and somehow I just started to get contacted by different people sending me a link to his course where he only accepts 50 people every year.
Right.
Only 50 people. And at that time, I think I was one of the youngest ones to apply. I had to go through a whole process. I had a call scheduled, like an interview, so to say. And eventually I actually was a part of the 50 students the following year. And I think that's just, setting a goal. I don't know what to say about this experience, but, I met him and I instantly felt like I know you, like I know your soul without him saying things to me. It's like, I know you. I got so much closure just by seeing him, after my older brother passed away. It was just like, his traits and you and your being is very similar. But yeah, it gave me a lot of peace to actually see him. And, I shared that with him. And as we moved along the trainings, it was so helpful for me to go through that training. If anyone hasn't ever heard about it, you must check it out. It's Train the Trainer by Jack Canfield. It's remarkable. And ever since then, I've incorporated all the learnings, all the teachings into my seminars, which are mental wellness related, helping people understand where they currently are. Where do they want to go? And from what I've noticed, resources come your way. But I think it's important to know where you currently are and determine the destination. It's like a GPS, input where you are and input where you want to go, and it kind of finds its way. I think life works very similarly. If you believe with conviction, there's nothing that can stop you.
So you have, for months, and I know up until certain probably restrictions in your area as well, have held monthly gatherings. You founded Reach Out Together. And within Toronto itself, I know when we had first connected, every month you were having free seminars, training for people so that they could benefit from your amazing one-on-one teaching and passion about helping others. How has that... and then you've taken it international. Can you share with us kind of like what that, what the goals, how you're pivoting with Reach Out Together? I mean, as a nonprofit, there's lots of nonprofits in your position right now, and they're learning how to pivot. How has this changed the journey for Reach Out Together, for better or for worse?
Thank you so much for that question, Aalia. We've been hosting seminars and events ever since 2017. Starting in May, that's when we came together as volunteers, a bunch of people. And we held our first event in Calgary, where actually the mayor of Calgary gave us a shout out on Twitter. That was so encouraging because that event was catered for the seniors of Calgary. And, we had a huge turnout for a first event to raise awareness among seniors. It was remarkable to see the impact. People were sharing after the event ended. People were connecting on a deeper level. And, that's when I realized that let's continue with these events. Let's continue with these seminars. And then we held every single month moving forward. We held one event in Toronto that year. After that year, we had, volunteers who were seeing, us showing up every month, hosting these workshops, and each month was dedicated to a specific topic. Either people would learn about mental health first aid, or they learn about psychotic disorders, what it entails. They learn about substance use disorders. They learn about anxiety, trauma-related disorders, mood-related disorders, in detail, signs, symptoms, prevention techniques, where to go. And then we'd have a lot of interactive exercises too. And from there, I think, when people started noticing the fact that we were just making it happen, we really stand for advocacy, we want to make a difference. A lot of people contacted us, became ambassadors, and are leading workshops in their own cities. We're growing more than ever right now. This month has been one of our busiest months. And given the fact that for the last 2 months, we've had to cancel all our events, all our workshops, our corporate workplace seminars canceled, speaking engagements in universities canceled. I feel like, you know, regardless of that, I am witnessing the need for more and more organizations to come forward and, you know, help people. I literally get on calls from the moment I'm awake till the evening, and then I get to my laptop, and then that's when I really start working. We're having a lot more of these webinar discussions because, you know, we want to spread awareness, we want to be a part of the change, and we want to truly help people move forward.
Yeah, you and I, as in the midst of all of that, I mean, I'm so glad. And I know that you've talked about what, you know, you actually already work in technology, and I know you're creating, you know, the virtual environments to move forward. It's funny when I ask that, because to be honest, you and I are still a little bit honestly in limbo, because we last year launched EmpowerCon together. You and I, which I have to, this is the person that several months before that, maybe about 9 months before then, you'd come to LA. In fact, that was when you had invited me to one of the events with Jack Canfield, and we hung out afterwards, and then we just had this moment where we were like, you know what we should do? We should have an event here in LA and really come together, because we both share very similar passions. And we did. 9 months later, we launched EmpowerCon at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and our event itself is based on the premise of admit that we have issues, ask the professionals and ourselves how we can, you know, move forward and where we go, and then adjust and the literal training. You were in charge of the adjust portion, because you offer this incredible training. I remember one time, it's funny when you bring up Jack Canfield, because I personally was in an arena of 10,000 people and got to hear Jack Canfield speak one time. And I personally experienced one of the most mentally cool exercises, whatever you want to call it, eye-opening. I was like, wow, this is real cool. And again, it was several years ago, but yeah, it was the one where you stand up, you picture what's behind you, you try to touch it the first time, can't really get around, or excuse me, you try to do it, and then you close your eyes and vision it, and then suddenly you're in the middle of 10,000 people who are like, whoa, how did I just do that? And it's the most incredible experience to literally see how capable your mind is of making changes. And by the way, I have to add that was also after experiencing one of my best friends and my adopted sister, who nearly died from a brain injury, and watching her come back. And what I mean was, that was months and months where she had to teach herself how to smile again. She had to tell her brain to keep her mouth closed, to tell her her arm would go up, because the way that the body reacts when it's not being led by our, it does things. And so she would have, her exercises were telling her brain to tell her arm to do something. So my experience, and I want to keep this on that whole mental health, my experience with Jack Canfield was really teaching me how strong I am, how much capacity I have within this little space between my two ears. And we've carried that on, you carried on, and then we carried that on to EmpowerCon. We are still, and I bring that up because every year you hold an event on the anniversary of your birthday, and in honor of his passing, you do an event. And this year we are still supposed to tentatively host EmpowerCon in some form or fashion, whether it's virtual or whatnot, on October 11th. It's still a ways off, and I've had people approach me, and I know we're still I'm definitely looking to figure this out over the summer if we really can do it or not. But I know for me personally, well, at least on that date, right? It's not like EmpowerCon is not coming back. Of course, we're going to continue this, but like other organizations, are we having to hold that back for a while? And it hurts me because I want to still bring that value to people. So I'm happy you're able to actually join me today, because you give a little taste of what you do, and it really is good.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Aalia. That we will make something happen. October 11th is actually the day we both were born. So I grew up, wishing each other happy birthday. And I think ever since he passed, we've been hosting events for young professionals. And last year, we decided that we're going to do it this year on October 11th. Last year, we actually celebrated in San Francisco for young professionals of SF. And we did a vision board party where we all created our own vision boards of how do we want to be, where do we want to be, the kind of money we want to make, how we want to feel, our mental state. And it was was really cool. That being said, for this year, we can definitely make something happen virtually. July 12th is the day we celebrate World Reach Out Together Day. Okay. That's the day that my twin brother passed away. And ever since then, we've been hosting World Reach Out Together Day on July 12th, bringing people together from across the world. And this year, we're going to be doing the same thing, but we're going to be doing it virtually. We're going to be hosting an event whole day on July 12th, bringing people in from different continents of the world, reaching out together. So
I love that.
About that.
I love it. Look, I want to ask you a couple questions in maybe the most simplest terms. I'm a person who wants to build a better mental health, a better brain. You touched on it a bit, but how can I do that? And specifically with what we're seeing right now, how do I channel anxiety and fear to a better version of me?
Would you like to do a really quick mindful exercise with me, Aalia?
Sure.
I think we have done this before on some live, but let's do it again. It's very quick. It's going to be for 1 minute.
Okay.
But what we're going to do, we're going to experience what mindfulness feels like.
Okay.
And the reason I say this, guys, I have to tell you, and I have to share this. It's important. I was one of the youngest students in that class of Jack Canfield's training, right? So I'm not going to lie to you. I was not used to meditation at that time. I got into this classroom, and every morning during our training, we would have a meditation session for 20 minutes before we actually got anything going. And I would sit there in class and I would open my eyes and look around, and I couldn't take it seriously. I just want to be real with you, Aalia, and then the fourth day came. And I didn't laugh. I actually thought I was the joke for opening my eyes and not taking it seriously.
Right.
Just because of the intention everybody was putting into this, how seriously people were taking it. So I told myself on day 4, Ansh, don't open your eyes. All that you have to do is keep your eyes closed and keep an open mind, right? And I kid you not, Aalia, for the very first time in my life, I felt chill. I don't know if you're going to resonate with this, but I'm the kind of person that's like, go, 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 go. You accomplish one thing, move on to the next, right? What's next? What's next? I personally believe that's our purpose in life, to keep rediscovering what we're capable of doing, right?
Sure.
But in that moment, for the very first time in my life, I just felt inner chill.
Right.
I was still. And the next day came and I did the same thing. And I kid you not, I opened my eyes and I had tears rolling down my cheeks, but I wasn't crying. It was just like my soul telling me, this is good. I want more of it, Mm-hmm. And I did every single day moving forward. I made sure that I dedicated my morning time, even if it's for 5 minutes, for mindfulness. And it's made a huge difference for me. There are moments where I get anxious. I'm just a human being that's, running an organization with 50 to 20 volunteers. And I feel overwhelmed. I feel everything like anybody and everybody feels. But this is what I do in real time. And I'm going to share that with you.
Okay.
There are 2 ways to go about it. Either you can put one of your hands on your stomach just so you can feel the breath. Because what we're going to do, we're going to breathe in as deep as we can and exhale from our mouth. So inhale from your nose, exhale from your mouth. So what we want to do with our hands is to feel that breath in and out, right? Because now we're focusing on only our breath. Nothing else matters but our breath. So if you feel like your mind is wandering, bring it back to your breath and just feel that in out, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing you can do is raise your hands and then go it down again. So every time you breathe in, just go... Right? This is movement. And it actually really works if you work it. If you work it, it will work. As simple as that, right? Let's do this for 1 minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my right hand on my stomach.
I'm going to do the same.
We're going to breathe in for 4, hold for a count of 4, and exhale for a count of 4. This is a type of yogic breathing practice. So we're going to only do this 4 times. But as deep as we can in, hold, and then exhale at your own time from your mouth. It's okay to make sounds.
Okay.
You're expressing. Okay. It's your time. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. 2 more times at your own pace. And whenever you're ready, just bring your awareness to your room. That's pretty much it. You can do this anytime, anywhere.
So when I'm doing that, is it a process of clearing the mind? Is it, because I mean, I remember reading Eat, Love, Pray back in the day, and there's a scene, if you ever read that book, there's a scene when she's in a monastery-ish, or she's in Bali, I believe, and she's learning to meditate, and her thoughts keep escaping. I guess, the purpose is, and she would kind of go through that same journey of thoughts, and it was so hard to just think nothing, to just think of nothing, right?
Yeah, but it takes time to get there. It takes consistency. It took me about a year before I could fully, go anywhere and not need a guided meditation to reap the benefits out of it. Now I feel like, even when I'm sitting and I feel like I'm tired and I look around my room and I start appreciating things, that's a form of meditation too, and mindfulness, right? So I think with practice and consistency, you truly do feel it. But yeah, I just wanted to share that really quickly with everybody.
Yeah, and it gives you, though, an opportunity to actually just kind of calm. So if you are feeling anxious or fearful, it causes you to just stop and take that moment. And I feel if so many more people did that, and myself included, because I definitely I'm not saying I'm like the most Zen person in the world at times. At times I am. I know you've seen me be Zen when I could freak out. I know you have seen me. But then there's days where I'm like, let me just tell you, I missed that boat big time, crashed hard. And I'm like, probably could have done a little bit better than that. But, I do look for those moments for me to say, okay, let me take a deep breath. There are methods that one can employ so that you don't come unhinged. And I think to some degree, that's what we're all trying to do, right? We're all trying to just keep it freaking together and not become unhinged.
Absolutely. And I think the best way to give an example to make anyone understand this would be, imagine you're on the sidewalk and watching the traffic pass by, their cars coming in and out. It's okay to just stand there and just see them go in and out without having to pick on every single car. You know what I mean? And I think meditation works very similarly in a way, when you sit down in the beginning, you feel like you're constantly getting distracted. Different thoughts are coming in. You're questioning different things. You go oh, did I turn off the gas? Different questions
Right.
pop in mind in that moment. But it's okay to just observe these thoughts and just let them go.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. I totally agree. Okay, we did talk on loss, and I want to ask this question is important to me. What are some of the signs? Now, and this is going to be difficult because we've talked about that, but what are some of the signs someone can look to see if themselves or someone that they love needs help? You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily talking about taking their life, but yeah, even whether they're just emotionally overwhelmed, and I'm not talking to the degree of feeling like they're going to take their life, but just you can be many places before that. And I feel like to some degree people feel like they should see signs, and I guess maybe that is the answer. Maybe there's not. Maybe some people hide it so well. We know we hide things really well, right? So, but what are some of the things that you say can be signs, I guess, if somebody's needing help, going in the wrong direction, and they're not really going in that positive direction, you know?
Absolutely. I think the biggest would be like noticing someone's behavior changing. Often with behavioral change comes, you know, a need for looking for something that will help them feel better. So sometimes that actually looks like, you know, someone may want to indulge in activities that they've never indulged in that doesn't make them feel good after, right? A lot of times, like, people drink. I think loss of appetite is a really big one. You know, the will to not want to engage in social activities is a really big one. That's social isolation. That's huge. Self-harm is huge. When they don't have a will to do anything, I think that's a huge sign. They don't want to engage in any extracurricular activities. They don't want to go out. You know, I say this, and I really want to speak from a lived experience standpoint here. There were all the signs in front of me about my twin brother. You know, everything that I'm mentioning right now, including substance use, I've witnessed that. You know, the person that my twin brother was when he went home was not the same person who came back home. He used to cry a lot after he would drink. He was really, really, really upset. I think there were core issues that went undiagnosed, truthfully. And I think these are not signs that we should ignore. I think they're cry for help, if anything. When someone is drinking to a point where they're not happy, I think that's a huge sign. You know, and then there's a way to confront people too. And that's what we learn in mental health first aid training. You know, there's something called ALGE, assess the risk. That's the first step. You can only assess the risk when you ask questions. Mm-hmm. The second step is listen non-judgmentally. So I think, you know, when you feel like someone has these symptoms that just don't feel right, it's okay to go ask a mental health professional for advice. It's okay to confront them, but, you know, be genuine in you approaching them. Don't use triggering words that could trigger them. You know, a trigger could look like a panic attack an episode. Mm-hmm. When panic attacks start, it's usually an outburst because they don't understand the emotions themselves about what is going on internally. Mm-hmm. So, you know, sometimes taking that 100% responsibility, it comes handy in those moments, knowing that this person, the way they're behaving is not because of you. Perhaps they're going through something themselves. Right. You know, that question is very important. And I think that comes a lot with wisdom. And as you live, you know, you realize the way people are behaving a lot of times has nothing to do with you. Right. It's what you're going through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's very important information and very well said, Aanchal. You are just someone I really admire and I love working with, and I love to continue knowing that we're going to get to work together. And how can people support Reach Out Together? First, I need to ask, because I know we got to jump off in a second, but you know, I do appreciate your time and I want people to support you. So how do they get in touch with you? How do they support Reach Out Together?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We are 100% volunteer-run organization. So any donations, they truly, truly help us. They help us do better, do more for people, reach more people. So if you are able to donate, that would be fantastic at www.reachouttogether.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at ROT Ambassador. Send me an email at Aanchal, or you can send it at info@reachouttogether.com. We would love to hear from you. You know, currently we're running a completely free of cost program every single month for people anywhere in the world, where we're connecting you globally on this platform. So people from across the world have signed up. We have about 26 members on this online support group. Every month we have one topic for 21 days, and every single day we give you one self-care activity to do. And we also assign you an accountability partner, so you actually make sure to do that one self-care activity for yourself. You know, I personally think that during these really uncertain times with this pandemic, this program was needed. And it's been remarkable to see people showing up for themselves, making a difference for themselves, people in their communities. So if you'd like to join this program, it's completely free. Send us an email at info@reachouttogether.com. Or if not, we would love to connect you to someone that can help, but we are here for you. Reach out. You're not alone.
Certainly not. And we're so glad to have people like you in the world. It means a lot, and I know it makes a difference. So with that, I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon, Aanchal. Thank you for joining us today. To the audience, I appreciate your time, and I really am thankful that you got to hear us be unsugarcoated. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.